Milionario Ethan Grande, shocked descubrir Richard Walker quiere controlar su feto. La noticia se espartiró como palo de tambor. Ethan Grande, tech genius transformado en billonario, tenía su par en cuenta del encuentro con Vía que suena los plan de miradas. ¿Quién estero adeló? Bicampeta. It wasn't just a meeting, it was a collision of worlds. Imagine Ethan standing stiff in a sleek, glass-walled conference room suspended 50 floors above the city, his heart pounding like a storm. The weight of his inventions, of entire industries built on his ideas, pressed down on his shoulders like a boulder. Across from him sat Walker, a man oozing confidence, every word coated with charm, but edged like a knife. His smile was cold, his eyes sharp and calculating, the kind that never blinked. Richard's voice cut through the thick. There was something awful in Walker's offer, something that twisted Ethan's stomach into knots. This wasn't just a business deal, it was a gamble with the soul of the future. The city's hum grew louder outside, a mechanical heartbeat echoing the tension inside. Then, the shock. The scandal broke. Headlines exploded. Spyware scandal implodes tech and politics. Both their empires dragged through mud and fire. Phones buzzed with panic. The public's eyes burned with suspicion. Their voices sharp and unforgiving. People shouted betrayal. The streets thrummed with chaos. Ethan saw the crowds from the window. Faces twisted by fear and fury. The world he built fracturing in real time. A whisper reached his ear, darker than any headline. Espionage. Sabotage. His mind raced. If Walker wasn't the enemy, then who was? And then, buried beneath layers of silence and lies, Ethan uncovered the secret, a ghost from Walker's past, a hidden truth that could shatter everything. The weight in Ethan's chest grew unbearable, a tight grip choking hope. Trust was slipping through his fingers like smoke. He looked at Walker again, searching, needling for the man behind the mask, but the tension thickened. The city's noise fading to a chilling stillness. Who was pulling the strings? The question burned hotter every second. Who could Ethan really trust? The game was darker than he imagined. And the clock? It was running out. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like that really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Ethan stared at Walker, his mind racing. The atmosphere was thick with tension, almost suffocating. He could feel his heart hammering against his ribcage, drowning out the noise of the city below. The question that hovered above them lingered like smoke in the air. Who could he trust? Just then, a sudden crack pierced the stillness, a loud bang, followed by shattering glass. Panic rippled through the conference room. Ethan turned to see thick shards flying through the air, a chill running down his spine. His instincts kicked in. "Get down!" he shouted, instinctively reaching for Walker, but the man was frozen, his shocked expression morphing into a glare. Another explosion rocked the building, this time more powerful, sending thick smoke swirling around them. Alarms blared, the once sleek room now transformed into a chaotic nightmare. Ethan's mind raced, thoughts jumbled. The crowd outside, had they turned hostile? He grabbed Walker by the arm, dragging him toward a side exit. They stumbled through the debris, the screams echoing around them. Then, something unexpected happened just outside the exit, under the violent flash of red emergency lights. Ethan saw a familiar face amid the crowd, a figure he never thought he'd see again. Jennifer, his former partner, stood there, her eyes wide, panic-stricken. In that moment, time stopped. What was she doing here? Why hadn't she told him about her return to the city? "Ethan!" she shouted, pushing through the chaos, her voice breaking through the din. "You have to listen to me. Walker isn't what he seems." Ethan's heart sank. How could she know? His mind boiled over with frustration and disbelief. "What do you mean?" he yelled back, trying to make sense of the whirlwind around him. Before she could respond, Walker shoved past Ethan, his expression hardening. "Get her out of here, Ethan!" he barked, his words laced with urgency and something more. Fear. The ground beneath them shook as another explosion rocked the base of the tower. A thick plume of smoke erupted, swallowing the light. It was as if hell had unleashed itself in New Haven. In the confusion, a loudspeaker blared an evacuation order, but the words were drowned by the building's groans, the world collapsing around them. "Ethan, please!" Jennifer cried, her gaze shifting between Ethan and Walker. "You're in danger! Everything you've built!" "It's a trap!" Before she could finish, another blast hit, sending them all reeling. The ceiling cracked, chunks of concrete raining down. Walker grabbed Ethan, his grip tight, pulling him away from the chaos. But Ethan's attention was fixed on Jennifer, her face pale, fear etched deep. Then, in a blink, everything changed. Before he could process it, Walker turned, his demeanor shifting. "I didn't want it to be like this," he whispered, his eyes darting nervously. In that moment, Ethan glimpsed a flash of something. Regret? Desperation? "No!" Ethan yelled, pulling away, eyes wide. "What is happening?" The world seemed to teeter on the edge, a fracture in reality. As the smoke began to clear, Ethan saw silhouettes in the distance, armed figures emerging, bolstered by chaos. Were they friends or foes? Walker moved in front of Ethan, as if to protect him. But could he trust this man? Everything Ethan thought he knew was unraveling. The weight of the truth hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Who was the real enemy? And what had Richard Walker been hiding all along? The moments stretched, each second a lifetime. The stakes were higher than ever, and Ethan knew there was no turning back. The city around them, once a symbol of his triumph, now felt like a cage. Time was slipping away, faster than he could grasp. And then, amid the chaos and uncertainty, a chilling thought took root. What if Walker wasn't the puppet master at all? What if he was just another player caught in someone else's game? The clock was ticking, and secrets were lurking just out of reach. Ethan felt the tension coil around him like a tight noose, every second stretched out. All eyes pinned on him through the sleek glass walls. Richard Walker leaned back, a smirk creeping into his cold smile. He was a predator, and Ethan was the prey. But this wasn't just business. It was life and death. Ethan's gut twisted as thoughts spiraled. Who was really pulling the strings? Trust is a delicate thing, isn't it? Walker said, leaning forward. Just then, the conference room doors swung open with a loud bang. All eyes shifted. A young woman burst in, gasping for breath. Panic etched across her face. "Ethan, you need to see this!" Her eyes flared with urgency. Ethan's heart raced. "What is it?" he demanded, fear creeping into his veins. "The news. They hacked the feed. They're saying—" She hesitated, a shiver rattling through her. "They're saying you're the one who sold the tech to foreign agents." The air thickened. The accusation hung over them like a heavy fog. Ethan felt the weight of disbelief crushing down. "What? No, that's not possible." Walker laughed, a short, twisted chuckle that made Ethan's skin crawl. Funny how quickly things can turn, isn't it? Ethan's mind raced. He had worked tirelessly to protect his inventions, sacrificed friendships, even love. How could this be happening? But the crowd outside, the swelling noise, it wasn't just chaos. It was a storm brewed from fear and betrayal. He strode to the window, heart pounding, breath catching, as he saw masses gathered, faces contorted in fury. "They think I'm a traitor." Suddenly, a shout erupted from just below. "Get him! He's the mole!" The crowd surged, voices rising in a deafening chant. Ethan stumbled back, heart thrumming wildly. He turned to Walker, whose smirk had widened, the glint in his eyes sharpening like a blade. "What have you done?" he hissed, anger flaring through him like fire. The woman looked panicked. "There's more. The leak. It's got Walker's fingerprints all over it." "What?" Ethan blinked, confusion swirling. "You're lying. That can't be true." The room spun. Did this mean Walker was the one manipulating everything? Walker stepped forward, voice smooth but laced with malice. "Ethan, it's too late. They won't believe you. You're the villain now. And you want to know the joke? You were always the pawn in my game." The words hit Ethan like a fist, and he struggled to breathe. His mind raced, piecing fragments together. The whispers, the hidden glances. Could it all have been Walker's doing? Rage surged through him, blinding and hot. "Enough!" he shouted, desperate. "What I built, you are just trying to tear it down." But before he could finish, the lights flickered, and the room plunged into darkness. A loud bang echoed, followed by screams from the street below. Chaos erotte. Alarmas blear. The sound drauneando sanidad. Ethan's corazones el rezo. Instinto quican encima. No era nada más sobre tecnología. Su futuro, su vida, se le quedaba incerteza. De la oscuridad, una sola figura cerca, llegada a nuevas luces de emergencia. Ethan escuntaba. Reconocía la cara de su amigo y los ampes del amigo más cercano. Sin imposibilidad. La creencia del corazón que tenía en él. Aisglistenin con ansiedad. Un secreto que se mueve al frente de sus labios. Era yo, Ethan, pero necesitaba protegerte. The ground beneath Ethan seemed to vanish. Questions flooded his mind, swirling in confusion. His pulse raced. What had they done? What was real? The walls began to close in, the noise of the chaos surging like a wave. Trust had shattered. The truth remained hidden in shadows. And now the clock was ticking faster than ever before. Ethan felt the ground shift beneath him, the chaos swirling like a maelstrom. His closest friend stood there, breaths shaky, but the weight of the words was sharper than any blade. "It was me, Ethan. I didn't want you to find out like this, but I needed to protect you." The room spun as confusion twisted like a vice around his chest. Trust, once so solid, crumbled like dust. There had to be more. "Protect me from what?" he demanded, voice barely above a whisper, the urgency dripping in each syllable. "From Walker," his friend replied, eyes darting around as if the truth itself could be eavesdropping. "They're not what they seem. Neither of them. You're in the line of fire. I thought I could keep you safe." "Safe?" "Ho ho 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 ho," Ethan echoed, anger flaring. "There's an explosion outside. What do you know? Tell me." Just then, the lights flickered back on, revealing chaos reignited. The faces in the room shifted from shock to concern, reality crashing in. Loud voices outside surged, and Ethan could taste the fear thick in the air. But what really struck him was the trembling in his friend's hands, the way they fidgeted like leaves in a storm. Then a cacophony of sirens pierced the heavy air. Ethan instinctively took a step back, heart racing. "What have you done? You're involved with Walker?" "Oh, no, stop!" His friend's voice cracked, desperation painting their features with a mix of guilt and fear. "It's not what you think. You have to understand." With a sudden move, Ethan grabbed his friend by the shoulders. "Then explain. Who is Walker? What's really going on here?" The room froze for a heavy moment. Breaths held, all eyes shifting between Ethan and the dark shadows of uncertainty swirling around Walker. But before his friend could say anything, a loud crash erupted as the door burst open, slamming against the wall. Ethan turned to see an armed figure stumbling in among the shock and smoke. Clad in tactical gear, the stranger pointed a gun, eyeing Ethan with an intensity that felt like ice against his skin. "You're Ethan Grant," the figure shouted, voice booming. "You're under arrest for treason." "What?" Ethan's mind reeled. He felt like he was unraveling, each piece of information jarring him more than the last. "Treason? No, you have the wrong—" The figure lunged forward, grabbing Ethan's friend, a grip vice-like around their arm. "Tell me you didn't." "Stop!" Ethan yelled, fear igniting anew. Just then, as if the universe shifted once more, Walker stepped in front of Ethan, blocking the view, voice low but fierce. "You don't want to do this. You think you understand the game, but it's just beginning." Stunned silence fell, each heartbeat echoing like thunder in the now tensioned crack of silence. The intruder hesitated, and in that split second, Ethan's friend stumbled from the grasp, collapsing against the nearby table. "Ethan!" they gasped, eyes wild with panic. "You need to trust me!" And then, before he could reply, everything exploded. A blinding flash filled the room, deafening and painful. Ethan shielded his eyes as fragments of debris rained down like hellfire. He stumbled back, feeling the heat envelop him, the suffocating reality of chaos blending with a visceral sense of urgency. As faces contorted with betrayal around him, a thought struck Ethan with gut-wrenching clarity. The figure had said treason, but who was the real traitor? And as the tendrils of smoke curled around them, another fragment from his friend hit him hard. "The truth is, I've been your biggest secret all along." Suddenly, every heartbeat pulsed with impending doom. If everything he thought he knew was hanging by a thread, who could he rely on? A scream echoed, drowning into the chaos. But all Ethan could process was that uncovering the truth might cost him everything, possibly even lives. What was hidden in the shadows? Ethan felt the chill settle deeper, his pulse racing as he locked eyes with Walker. It was like staring into the abyss, the darkness promising something sinister. The city sprawled below, unaware of the storm brewing in that glass-walled room. Was there a truth behind that practiced smile, or was it all a facade meant to ensnare him? Just then, a loud crash echoed outside. Glass shattered and alarms blared. Ethan's heart dropped. He darted toward the window, peering down to see chaos unfolding in the streets below. A crowd had gathered, faces twisted in terror as smoke billowed from a building 2 blocks away. Panic surged through him. Was it an attack or an accident? "Stay focused, Ethan!" Walker's voice sliced through the noise, but it felt distant, muffled. Ethan kept his eyes on the chaos, on the flickers of flames licking the sky. Shadows darted, and in the chaos, he saw a figure, a woman, dark hair whipping in the wind, eyes wide with fear. Suddenly, static burst from Walker's earpiece, a voice crackling through. "Code Red! They're targeting us! Repeat! They're targeting us!" Ethan turned, alarm flooding his senses. Targeting us? But before he could digest those words, the lights flickered. A heavy tremor shook the building, rattling the glass and his very core. The ground below seemed to erupt. People screamed, scrambling for safety, and then a blinding flash. Everything went white. Ethan clutched his head as darkness swallowed him. The sudden silence almost unbearable. When he blinked awake, he was still in the conference room, but it felt different, heavy, surreal. Walker was gone. The meeting room, once sleek and modern, lay in disarray. Papers scattered, the table overturned. Then, amidst the wreckage, a glimmer caught his eye. A device, sleek and metallic, pulsing slowly, as if alive. With shaking hands, Ethan approached. The screen flickered to life, revealing a live feed. The chaos in the streets, but now with clarity. Faces streamed by, some fearful, others determined, and among them, there she was again, the woman. But she wasn't just a victim. She was holding something up in the air. A small, glowing orb, pulsating just like the device before him. His heart raced as he realized the orb was connected to his technology. Blood rushed in his ears. This wasn't random. This was intentional. Confusion and dread swirled in his gut. Who was she? What did she know? And why was it all tied to Walker? Suddenly, another voice tore through the tension. A familiar one. "Ethan, listen to me." It was his trusted advisor, Jack, his eyes wide, breathless. "We've been set up. This wasn't just a scandal, it's a diversion." Before Ethan could respond, another tremor shook the room, and a loud crash followed, as if the world was collapsing around him. Jack's eyes widened in horror. "They're coming for you." As the wall seemed to close in, Ethan felt time slip away. The stakes were higher than he ever imagined, and trust felt like a distant memory. The device pulsed, catching his attention, its glow now almost hypnotic. What was the truth, and who could he rely on, when the very air he breathed felt tainted with betrayal? Ethan took a deep breath, muscles tensing, readying himself for whatever came next. What did he really uncover? And who was the woman with the orb? Before he could grasp the weight of it all, footsteps thundered outside. The clock was ticking, and the world had just flipped upside down. Ethan felt a chill race down his spine as he searched Walker's expression for a hint of sincerity. Was this a deal or a trap? Just as the tension peaked, the doors of the conference room burst open. A young woman rushed in, her face ashen, eyes wild. "Ethan, you need to see this," she breathed, panic tightening her voice. It was Lucy, his trusted right hand, usually so composed. Her urgency jolted him. His heart hammered as he glanced at Walker, who remained seated, that predatory smile still on his lips. "Lucy, what's going on?" Ethan's voice shook as he rose, instinctively stepping closer to her, nearly stepping into her personal space. "It's about the scandal. It's worse than we thought." She held up her phone, and as she flicked through the screens, Ethan felt his chest tighten. The headlines flashed. "Breaking news! Major security breach! Internal whistleblower unveiled!" Underneath, a video began to play. It showed an insider, someone they both trusted, making claims that not only implicated Ethan, but painted him as a mastermind of a covert operation to infiltrate rival companies. His gut twisted. This can't be real. "Ethan, it seems there are records, emails, messages, even a meeting schedule. You were set up." Lucy's voice was almost pleading, and Ethan could feel the heat flooding his face. "No, this is wrong," he shouted, unable to hide the tremor in his voice. "I wouldn't—" "But it's there, and it gets worse." Her expression shifted, turning grave. "The person behind the leak. It's Walker." Ethan froze. The world outside the glass walls blurred into a hazy shadow as reality crashed around him. Walker? But how? It was unfathomable. Richard's smile faded, his eyes narrowing like a snake preparing to strike. "Ethan, think! This isn't about us anymore. This is about control," Walker purred, his voice smooth as silk, yet filled with malice. Ethan's head spun. The walls felt like they were closing in like a vice. "You've orchestrated this?" Ethan felt his fists clench by his sides. The betrayal burned through his veins. He was drowning. "The game needs players, Ethan. You just didn't realize you were a pawn," Walker replied, that infuriating calm still coating his every word. The sound of the city shifted. Sirens and screams pierced the air, echoing against the glass like a warped symphony of chaos. The noise grew, a tangible wave hitting against the conference room like a storm. "Ethan!" Lucy's voice broke through, dragging his thoughts back. "We need to act fast. If Walker has this much control, it's only the beginning. We could be in real danger." Suddenly, the lights flickered. A loud crash from the building structure sent tremors through the floor, scattering papers. They turned toward the window just in time to see a massive explosion lit the sky. Their reflection shattered in the glass as a shockwave sent them reeling back. The city erupted in chaos. Ethan's heart raced. In that moment, everything became clear. The stakes were higher than he had imagined, and trust was a fragile thread ready to snap. Then, behind Walker, a figure appeared, masking his face with shadows. A silhouette Ethan recognized too well. His own brother, once thought lost. "Ethan, it's time to choose," the figure intoned, his voice low. Everything he thought he knew crumbled. The question screamed inside him. Who was his real enemy? And how deep did this betrayal run? The clock kept ticking, and the game had just begun. Ethan felt the tension crackle like electricity in the room. Walker's confident demeanor only deepened Ethan's unease. This darkness, it seeped into the corners of his mind, skimming his reality like a stone across still water. The city outside began to blur. Lights of New Haven flickered like the dying breath of hope. Then, out of the blue, a shrill alarm broke the silence, slicing through the air like a knife. Ethan's stomach dropped. What was happening? Walker's eyes darted towards the door, a flicker of concern breaking his facade. "Stay calm," he said, though his voice trembled slightly. Moments later, the wall-mounted screens lit up, displaying chaos. The bustling streets below erupted into a frenzy. People screaming, running, pushing against one another. Ethan's hands grew clammy against the glass table. "What's going on?" he demanded. Walker's smile vanished. "I don't know. Just hold on." Another alarm rang out, this time followed by loud crashes. Something was off. Panic washed over Ethan like a cold tide. Was this some kind of game? But deep down, he sensed a sinister shadow creeping closer, wrapping around them like a noose. Then, as if in a nightmare, the door burst open. Security personnel rushed in, faces pale and urgent. "Ethan Grant, we need you to come with us," one shouted, eyes wide with fear. Ethan's heart raced. "What are you talking about?" he snapped, glancing at Walker, whose face was a mask of confusion. Another guard shouted, "There's been an attack. The building is compromised. We have to evacuate." Evacuate? Couldn't wait of his inventions. His empire fue like a tombstone cruzándole. He couldn't just leave. But outside, the chaos intensified, shadows of darkness converging. He had to know the truth. In a flash, Ethan threw himself at the window, peering down. He gasped as he witnessed smoke pluming from nearby buildings. Explosions rippled through the night, illuminating the faces of the terrified crowd below. There was something eerily familiar about it. And just like that, a realization hit him. The twisted threads of his past intertwined with the tumult outside. Awakening within him was a memory so buried it felt like a ghost haunting his every move. "Walker!" Ethan turned, shouting over the chaos. "What do you know about this?" The air thickened. A single word slipped from Walker's lips, low and chilling. "Betrayal." Before Ethan could process it, Walker's expression morphed, revealing something else entirely. A flicker of fear, transforming into cold resolve. He took a step forward, a predator eyeing its prey. "Ethan, you need to understand," Walker said, voice smooth yet sharp. "This isn't just about technology anymore. They're coming for you." and I'm the only one who can help. Help? Or control? Doubt twisted in Ethan's gut. Confusion swirled like smoke in his mind. He glanced towards the guards, their panic palpable. But just then, the screens exploded into static, a terrible crackle filling the air. Shouts turned to screams as everything erupted into chaos around him. In that moment, reality fractured. It was betrayal. It was war. Ethan could feel it in the marrow of his bones. Then, with one final whisper from Walker, a truth emerged like a cursed revelation. Don't you see? This was never just about tech. It's about power. And we're all just pawns in a game far greater than ourselves. The world spun as Ethan's heart froze, trapped in the whirlwind of a deadly game. The clock was ticking. But who was playing? And who was left to trust? In a world shrouded in shadows. Ethan felt a rush of cold fear cut through him as he stared at Walker. The room vibrated with tension, a charged silence before the storm. That one word, betrayal, hung in the air like a noose. Then, as everything seemed poised for the inevitable collision of conflict, the door burst open again. In rushed another figure, this time more frantic than the last. A man Ethan barely recognized. It was David, his brother, long thought lost to time and tragedy. A ghost he'd grappled with for years. "Ethan, get out of here!" David shouted, his face a mask of panic. Ethan's heart dropped. David? But how? Now is not the time! They're coming! You're in serious trouble, Ethan. His brother's eyes darted around the room, searching for danger, as if the walls themselves had ears. You're in over your head! Ethan felt the room spin, layers of confusion piling on top of him. What are you doing here? What do you know? And then, through the chaos, David stepped forward, mustering all the authority he could. It's Walker! He's not just after your company! He's using you to get something far more significant. Something we can't let happen. Ethan turned to Walker, betrayal bubbling at the surface again. But then, a sudden flash in David's eyes stopped him. There was urgency, desperation. Listen, he urged his brother. I've worked undercover for too long. I thought they'd left you out of it. But they're not done. You're a target now. Ethan shook his head in disbelief. Target? For what? Why didn't you tell me before? David opened his mouth to respond when, without warning, the lights flickered violently. The emergency sirens outside ceased, a heavy silence settling in its place. And like a predator, sensing prey, Walker shifted the tension in the room, morphing into a figure cloaked in calm menace. You shouldn't have come back, David, he said, his voice dripping with malice. That's when it happened. The deep rumble shook the building. It felt like the ground itself was rejecting everything, like a massive earthquake, sending multiple vibrations through the walls. And then, the window behind David shattered in an explosion of glass. Sharp shards glittered like designed death. Instinctively, Ethan lunged, grabbing David and pulling him away just as another blast rocked the conference room. The very air became charged with an electric sense of terror as he watched chaos erupt outside. Dust and smoke filled their lungs, choking their voices. But even amidst the turmoil, that's when he saw it. The orb in the corner, glowing ominously, brighter than before, pulsating like a heartbeat. "Ethan, the orb!" Lucy screamed, scrambling towards the device. But at that moment, with eerie precision, the orb emitted an intense beam of light, casting everything around into stark contrast. The glow revealed a hidden message, symbols he recognized from long-forgotten projects, but mingled with unfamiliar codes. Codes from a time he hadn't been part of. He turned to David, breathless. "What the hell is this?" "I didn't want to believe it." David's voice trembled. "But it's their failsafe. If they can't control you, they intend to erase you. All of you. Your history, your work, everything." Before Ethan could comprehend the depth of his brother's words, the pressure in the room surged. The air crackled until it exploded like a burst balloon. The conference room doors flew open, and the armed figures raced in, ready to do what they'd come for. And as Ethan braced himself, ready to protect his brother, the glare of those weapons reflected not just his usual fear, but a shocking realization. David wasn't just back, he was mixed in this wreckage. Did Walker know? Had he puppeteered this return? The clock ticked steadily in that echo of chaos. One thought echoed in Ethan's mind. Trust is a fragile thing, as betrayal loomed larger than ever before. Who was really behind the mask? And what secrets had David been hiding all along? Lies and truths swirled violently, and the real game was just beginning. Ethan felt the ground shift beneath him as the chaos unfolded. David stood there, urgency painting his face, but the truth was still murky. Everyone around him felt like actors in a play gone wrong, characters wearing masks of confusion, in a scene just moments from the climax. Suddenly, the entire building rattled violently, sending vibrations through the very walls. The lights flickered once, twice, then surged. In that heartbeat of increased tension, Ethan's heart raced. He fought to keep his breathing steady, searching for answers hidden in the turmoil of his brother's eyes. "Ethan!" Lucy shouted, panic filling her voice. "We have to move!" But Ethan couldn't tear his gaze from David. The weight of desperation pushed down on him, tight like a noose around his chest. "What do you mean they're coming for me? Who's they?" Before David could respond, another tremor struck. The building seemed like it was splitting at the seams. With a deafening crash, the ceiling buckled, sending dust and debris raining down. Ethan ducked instinctively, adrenaline flooding his veins, as fear spiraled deep in his gut. "Get down!" he shouted, pulling Lucy close, shielding her, as shards of plaster fell around them. And then it happened. An enormous shadow burst through the doorway, silhouetted against the chaos. It was a figure, easily recognizable, the last person Ethan ever expected to see. "Megan!" he gasped, voice barely above a whisper. His heart raced. This was his sister, lost to him for years, swept away in secrets, in shadows. But here she stood, trembling, aimed, something glittering in her hand, straight at Walker. Ethan's mind spun. "What are you doing here? Get away from him, Ethan!" she cried, her voice cracking with raw emotion. "He's lying! They're all lying! Put the gun down, Megan!" Walker's voice was a meticulous hiss. the confidence in his tone cracking just slightly under the pressure. Everything around exploded in noise. Alarms blared. People's shouts blended into a cacophony of chaos. But in that moment, all Ethan could see was Megan's panicked expression. "I didn't want you to know," she started, but was interrupted by another blast from outside, the ground shaking beneath their feet. Once again. "Know what?" Ethan demanded, voice hoarse. "What's going on?" Megan took a shaky breath, eyes darting between Walker and Ethan, fear etched in every line of her face. "It's not just Walker. There's something much bigger. Something I've been a part of." Just then, the air crackled with tension, and a sudden silence fell. Everyone froze. Walker stepped forward, the facade cracking. "You don't have to do this, Megan. You can still walk away." "Walk away?" she echoed, eyes fierce. "After everything that's happened? I've seen things, Ethan. The people behind this, they're not just companies. They're a cabal that ties to everything. Your company, our family, everything." Confusion morphed into raw fear as those last words hit hard. "What do you mean, our family?" The air grew thick with tension as a wave of realization washed over Ethan. So this was about more than just a tech war? It's family too? Then, as if the universe had conspired against them, a bright flash erupted from the orb, an intense light that seared his retinas. Everyone recoiled, hands up against the blinding brilliance, and just like that, the room melted into chaos once more. When the light faded, reality warped violently. Megan stood still, eyes wide, gaze locked onto something behind Ethan that he couldn't see. A jolt of terror shot through him. "Megan!" he shouted. "What is it?" But the darkness that replaced the light was more than just a shadow. It cloaked the truth. It darkened intentions. In a gasp of horror, Ethan realized there was something buried deep within the layers of lies. She was something else. Before he could find his footing, a sharp intake of breath from David startled him. Ethan's world turned on a pivot. Whatever hidden secrets lurked beneath the surface were about to surface violently. Megan's voice, barely a whisper, quaked with urgency. "Ethan, I never wanted you to find out like this, but I'm not just your sister anymore. I'm part of it all, the deeper part. I was chosen." Shockwaves rippled through his heart. Chosen? What might that mean? As realization struck him hard, the world he thought he understood crumbled around him. The bonds of family, trust, everything twisted now in the face of a greater darkness. Time froze. Each heartbeat echoed the impending fallout. The clock was ticking, and every second held the weight of impending secrets. Who was he really fighting against? Ethan felt the walls close in as Megan's words echoed in his mind. "I'm part of all, the deeper part. I was chosen." Confusion spiraled as he struggled to grasp the implications. Another explosion echoed outside, shaking the room again, sending shards of glass sprinkling around them. He turned to see Lucy crouched, eyes wide, body tense with fear. David was pushing Megan to the side, his protective instinct kicking in. The chaos had escalated too quickly, and now they were all trapped in a storm of deception. "Megan, you can't just drop a bombshell like that!" Ethan shouted over the chaos. "What do you mean, chosen? Chosen for what?" A burst of fear flickered across her face. "To lead." To be part of a power that could reshape everything. But Walker, he's using that against us. Walker took a cautious step back, his smirk dissipating. It's not about power, it's about control. And you, Ethan, are a bigger piece in this than you realize. Megan raised her gun slightly, but hesitated. No, Ethan, we need to figure this out together. Walker is manipulating the narrative. He wants to make you a scapegoat. You're not the enemy. The truth was starting to crystallize. Light breaking through the confusion. The room felt charged, electric. With every heartbeat, Ethan's purpose sharpened. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was time to reclaim his life. The chaos outside reached a fever pitch as the building shook again. Ethan stepped forward, determination flooding his veins. If this is a game, then let's change the rules. I won't let you control me, Walker. Before Walker could respond, Ethan grabbed the glowing orb from the table. The moment he touched it, the device blared with energy. A blinding light filled the room, engulfing everyone in its brilliance, illuminating the uncertainty on their faces. Suddenly, everything stopped. Time suspended. Ethan could feel his breath catching. Together, we can stop this, he urged, looking into Megan's and David's eyes. Help me to expose the truth. Megan nodded, her grip tightening on the weapon. David stepped beside her, determination sparking in his eyes. Together then. The sound of shattering glass behind them ripped through the moment. The shadows of armed figures loomed closer, weapons drawn, the stakes beyond high. Ethan's heart raced. Now! With a surge of adrenaline, they took action. Megan covered their escape as Ethan led David and Lucy toward the back exit. The tension crackled like a live wire. With every step, the reality of their situation pushed deeper. They're more than just tech moguls. They're creating a network that puts us all in danger, Ethan shouted. The shadows of betrayal loomed large, but he refused to let them consume him. As they burst through the emergency exit, the chaos outside merged with the night sky, smoke descending like the curtain of a twisted play. The city felt foreign, trembling with uncertainty. Ethan pulled Megan and David into the alley, clenching the orb tightly. We can turn this around. We can expose Walker's true motives. Let's do it, David replied, determination lighting his eyes. They were together again, a family formed in adversity, hardened by choice. But as they ventured deeper into the darkness, the realization set in, a deep-rooted truth behind every facade. Who could they trust in this shattered world? Voices echoed, but they approached an uncharted territory tinged with hope. Megan squeezed Ethan's shoulder, grounding him. Whatever happens, we're in this together. In that bond, a sliver of hope ignited amidst the chaos. They were still alive, a thread within an unraveling tapestry. But the clock was ticking, and outside shadows whispered of deeper intrigues yet to unfold. Ethan's heart raced. Where would they be led? The fight wasn't over. Not yet. The game had only just begun. And now, you can't afford to miss what's next. You have to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even a second longer. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Let's keep the conversation going.